wave actually stuck around, and we're starting to see larger trends happen to where LA is coming into its own. I mean, for years, LA's always been under San Francisco's shadow, and San Francisco will always be the epicenter of tech in the world. But I always say, if you live in LA, you take LA for granted. If you live outside of LA, you take LA for granted. But if you just take one step back and take a look at what's going on around you, you see a lot of companies making great strides step by step on a regular basis. And so with that in mind, I built out LA Tech Digest, a simple WordPress site that pulls together news. I probably do one profile a week, but a lot of times I'm just pulling information from other sources like Twitter and Feedly and all the different stuff, because whenever a precedent happens in this town, it's very telling about LA's press. When a VC announces a new round or a startup announces a new round, they send that press release straight up to Mashable or TechCrunch or some outside company for national coverage, and then it filters back down to the local press. And so I think in time that'll change, but right now we're on the verge of very big things, and even as we're on the precipice of some potential economic calamities and all these things associated with down rounds and falling unicorns and all that, I think that LA's tech scene is going to be very strong because LA as a VC town has always been very early stage. So we're not chasing unicorns, we're not putting late stage money into stuff and overspending for any products or any companies. So should valuations come down, it just presents a greater opportunity for local VCs to invest at a lower level, but it also raises the bar for everybody to build a better company when pitching the VCs. So I built this slide deck as basically a means of collecting all the information I've learned over the year. And quite honestly, a lot of you may already know this stuff, and this is intentionally written at a 12th grade level because I want this to be shared as much as possible, especially among kids, because they need to understand the amount of opportunity that's here in Los Angeles. Whenever you say LA Tech, a couple names always come to mind, but once you dig deeper into every single industrial vertical, you see that we've got a lot of coverage in a lot of areas. And I thought this is a good means to just put that in one area so people can find it. A little bit about the digest. Built it out a year and a half ago. Got the website. The calendar is really good for events. The email that comes out every Monday morning is really good. It's just simple links to all these different articles. And the Twitter feed is a really great way to keep up with what's going on a daily basis, because I'm on that thing first thing in the morning and probably the last thing I do, or at least in the afternoon. So it's always a constant flow of what's going on. And it's not just a listing of events, it's not just a listing of tech news, but I try and get a pulse on the town from a government angle, as well as things going on around town at the events, and show a little bit of the lifeblood behind this town, as well as pictures of pretty sunsets, because this town's known for its weather more than anything else. LA itself is a reflection of the world. 114 neighborhoods, 4 million residents, 37 nationalities. I mean, a lot of you may already know this, but for outsiders, when they always hear about Los Angeles, what's the difference between LA, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, etc. There are all these little towns here that make up Los Angeles itself, but then there are a few of these towns that are their own separate entities, like Santa Monica, like Culver City, like Pasadena, Beverly Hills, etc. This is just a great way to show people exactly what the heck LA is, because they don't quite understand it sometimes. LA is the birthplace of the internet. The first email did go out from UCLA to, I think it was Stanford. There we go, thank you, in 1969. And we are the third largest ecosystem in the US. One of the fastest growing areas for startups in America. Close to 400,000 high-tech jobs in Los Angeles. That's only continuing to grow. One of the biggest things about this area is more college graduates and tech talent are staying in Los Angeles because they have access to capital, which is something we didn't always have before. Whenever a company whenever anybody graduated from school, a lot of the kids still go up to San Francisco, because that is the ultimate battleground for engineers and developers to work for a Google or a Facebook or something like that. But what people are discovering is San Francisco is expensive. San Francisco is extremely competitive. San Francisco is cold. And what we have here, seriously, it's like we have weather, we have lower real estate prices. So, you know, to live in San Francisco proper, you have to make at least $150,000 just to get by. Now, if you've got a wife and 2 kids, you're going to live out somewhere else, and all of a sudden you're bidding on a house whose starting price is $1.2 million or more. So, and, you know, a lot of the senior developers and engineers will get a salary of maybe $250,000 or more in San Francisco, but you can actually survive on $150 in LA, you know, just based on the cost of living. And so a lot of rock stars and engineers are moving down from San Francisco. A lot of kids are staying in town because they have access to local capital to build their own businesses. Now, it's still tough to find engineering talent in this town. There's still a drought, but a lot more people are staying after school and staying here as opposed to moving away. And a lot of that's been thanks to the efforts of Los Angeles to set itself up as a platform for technology companies. Every other town is doing this stuff as well, having open data portals. Mayor Garcetti and his team in Los Angeles proper have done a really good job of highlighting a lot of stuff. In fact, Garcetti's speaking at LA Clean Tech Incubator today about a new mapping system that they built out in partnership, I think, with IBM, and that was just announced this week. Of course, civic support. Yeah, we've got some of the best places for people to meet up and to exchange ideas, to talk, and, you know, find each other. You know, whether it's Port Tech, Los Angeles, of course, Innovate Pasadena, LA 2050, West Hollywood has their own thing going on called WeHo X. Bixel Exchange is a great resource in Los Angeles for people that are looking to start up a business. They have an idea, they just don't know where to connect it. It's a public-private partnership funded with a lot of national dollars, but Bixel Exchange is the tech hub for the Chamber of Commerce. Now, I don't want to send anybody away from Pasadena because Pasadena's own brain trust is very well established and has been around for quite some time. It's very strong, but there are resources out there all over the place if you're willing to look around and see what's available. Of course, education. We've got some of the best engineering schools in the world. Caltech, Harvey Mudd, UCLA, USC Viterbi, and, you know, I mean, over 100 area colleges and universities that graduate 11,000 engineering students each year. VC's fundraising continues to grow. In my own studies, I found that last year, LA tech companies had raised over $4 billion in 2016. Made in LA, per their infographic this week, said it was only $3 billion. I've got to double check the facts on that. But in any case, we're still companies are raising a healthy amount of money, and it continues to grow. Things are going to be slower this year. There's no doubt about it. You know, VCs are very tight with their checkbooks right now and are looking for strong teams and strong ideas. But we've had some really good exits. You know, Lindo, which is up in the Ventura area, was purchased by LinkedIn. Match went public. Riot Games and Collective Digital Studios were both bought out by their international partners. Eventually, Honest Companies, Snapchat will go public, depending on how the public markets shake out. Right now, Wall Street has not had a good start this year. And then you have the VCs and the fundraising. I mean, there's tons of money around here. It's just a matter of finding the right partners to make that happen. You know, we've got celebrity VCs like Ashton Kutcher's thing, Troy Carter's thing. NOS has a VC fund called Queensbridge. Machine Shop is run by Lincoln Park. But you know, we've made our own strides. Upfront, Rustic Canyon, Wavemaker. You know, they all have funds. They're all looking to deploy capital and the right ideas. And so, with a plethora of professional VCs, we have access to capital that we haven't had in years. So it's just a matter of matching up the right opportunities with the right partners and making things happen. Does anybody have any questions so far with this thing? I'm just rolling off. Okay. Another good thing about LA is the focus on female founders and VCs. I mean, it is the system is really, really strong. This isn't just some societal trend based on, you know, what the news is reporting now. I mean, these women have put down deep roots and supporting other women in building out companies that benefit everybody. Kara Nortman was behind Hop Skip Drive, and Hop Skip Drive is an Uber for parents who need their kids picked up from school. They just raised a $10 million Series A this week, largely backed by Chicago's Pritzkers, who are now in LA. And this is just on top of a seed round they'd raised about 6 months ago. So, you know, these women are bringing to focus businesses that can benefit women, but also larger stuff as well. It's not just female focused, but we have a lot more of an advantage down here than other areas. And this entire ecosystem supports itself with meetups like they have a group called Tuesday Nights. There's a couple of female funders and female founders events. A lot of this stuff can be found on the LA Tech Digest calendar, but it speaks a lot to LA's focus on diversity, whereas San Francisco and other areas are largely noted as a boys' club, a men's club, whatever you want to call it. But we have some very strong women in this town, for which this town should be very proud of that. Accelerators, incubators, studios, we got them all. I think the biggest trend that's going to happen in the next few years is having corporate-backed accelerators. You've seen great success with Techstars overseeing the Disney Accelerator. Now they're doing the Cedars Accelerator. I think you're going to see that model deployed a lot more often, because standalone accelerators may or may not have the capital to do these things properly and build these companies out to where they can see a sizable return on their investment. But corporate-backed accelerators are going to do really well because they're playing with the money from corporations who are looking to tap into the mind trust of startups and finding that proper match. Disney Accelerator's done a really good job of matching their intellectual property with the startups that have demoed for the past 2 sessions. The LA Dodgers Accelerator was really strong. I mean, they had about 10 portfolio companies, if I'm not mistaken. About 3 or 4 were based on betting, for whatever that's worth. But the other companies they had were really focused on the types of things that can be deployed into other verticals. Like Appetize is a great mobile point of sale system. They had a few things that could measure performance that can be used by the military and other businesses. Really cool stuff. Science has done a great job of building companies locally. Science backed a little company called Dollar Shave Club that's already putting a serious hurting on Gillette these days. Amplify's got a wonderful portfolio. LA Clean Tech Incubator is the private-public partnership that's got long money into tech companies that might not see fruition for years and years and years, but they're trying to solve very hard problems in the energy space from a hardware and a software side. All the local colleges have different types of groups. EOC Viterbi's got their own stuff going on. Startup UCLA, Making LA focuses on hardware. Grid 110 focuses on fashion. Grid 110 is actually about to open up a Grid 101, which is going to tap into Hollywood's base of entertainment tech companies. That's a really good idea that's taken off. And of course, the grandfather of all this stuff, Idea Lab, just right around the corner. I mean, everything that Bill Gross and his team have done over the decades has been wonderful. Crowdfunding. I mean, LA is actually the epicenter of all crowdfunding. Howard Marks' Start Engine has done a really good job of taking companies into the Jobs Act A+ to get funding from accredited investors. Crowdfunder pushed towards the Jobs Act legislation to make all these things possible, and Crowdfund X is just getting off the ground. FinTech. Massive number of companies across this vertical. Everything from Bitcoin to student loans to Wallaby, which is just right next door. But yeah, I mean, the main point of all this stuff, slide by slide, is to see what companies are here in town. Because if you just scratch the surface, you might not know all this stuff. But then the deeper you dig, it's oh my gosh, you've got a dozen companies for every single vertical. And with each vertical comes opportunity. So if you have an idea that can match up with one of these companies, or if you want to work for one of these companies, you know who they are and where they are, and you can match your specialties to their abilities and what they have going on. Real estate, oddly enough, we've got a large number of companies that are dedicated to real estate. RadPad is taking off by enabling landlords to accept credit card payments. Realty Mogul allows for crowdsourcing of financing real estate. Got Patch of Land. LeisureLink is focused on the high-end leisure space. Film and TV, obviously, been our bread and butter for over 100 years, and it's the first thing that everybody thinks of when you talk about LA or Hollywood. And a lot of these companies have had to adjust to the modern day, and they're doing well at it. Even it's ratings are holding up at the networks. They're digging in deeper with partnerships with all the video-based companies and beyond. And leading into that, you've got all the video companies. Netflix, which is based up north, has their content outpost here in Beverly Hills, soon to move to Hollywood. Amazon Studios has their content outpost in Santa Monica. Hulu's in Santa Monica. All the MCNs are doing well. Big Frame, Machinima, Full Screen Maker. And the funny thing is about the MCNs, it's like, okay, so the multi-channel networks make their money from, well, all right, so one, they bring in the YouTube talent. The YouTube talent gets advertising revenue split with Google, and then, so Google takes 50% of the YouTube revenue, the talent takes 50% of that revenue, and then the CDN takes a portion of the talent's ad revenue. But where the real bread and butter is for the multi-channel networks is actually tapping into the power of those YouTube stars and creating branded content or sponsored content for Fortune 500 companies. So a company like Big Frame may be approached by advertising agencies who are looking to buy them because Big Frame is a specialist in creating branded content. But Big Frame will be like, well, we get 100 we get 100 pitches from brands on a weekly basis. Maker gets about 100 RFPs, requests for proposals, about 100 on a daily basis. So it's like brands are looking to leverage the cool factor with the YouTube stars, the Vine stars, Instagram stars, you fill in the platform, and tap into these companies, and we're seeing a lot more of those grow. In fact, Narrative, who focuses on Snapchat stars, just announced a $3 million raise yesterday. Me Too just got a huge raise for their Latin-based multi-channel network. Style Hall's doing great. Jib Jab, which has been around for the better part of like 15 years, is killing it by creating content outside of the puppets. And Taste Made and Funny and Die are doing well as content plays as well. And as part of the ecosystem, you have hybrid publishing, because in the future, all content consumed will be, 70% of all content consumed will be video, 70% of all content will be mobile. So right now there's a lot of companies that are text-based, a lot of companies that are audio-based, but everybody's migrating towards doing short-form video in different ways or another. Demand Media's been around for a while. IAC has a portfolio of content companies. Render Media has one of the largest sites you might not have ever heard of, called Opposing Views, and they've been able to take their formula of narrow channel broadcasting for specific verticals, tapping into the passions, building into the socials, and exploding their audiences. Render Media has Opposing Views, and they have a site called it's called Hey Food or something like that. It just launched in November, and they already have like 4 million followers to the dang thing. It's nuts. But what's happening is everything, all the same content, no matter where it's published, is going to come through the same funnel because Facebook owns the world. And so it depends on how that content is produced and what you're producing and who you're speaking to is going to decide who's going to get the most eyeballs. And so the companies that understand that are focusing on building content on their sites, but also making sure that it's optimized to flow through that Facebook funnel so that it gets shared and liked a lot more often. Video ecosystem, all these companies support video in one way or another. Epoxy has amazing tools that lets YouTube stars chop up their content for socials so that you have the video, you can make GIFs out of that video to post on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all the other platforms. FemMink allows for licensed content to show up on other companies' sites, much like Taboola and Outbrain do for regular web posts. WhipClip deals with chopping up broadcast network pieces and getting that shared on the internet. Juke Media is a really interesting company because what they do is they find those viral videos in the early stages, contact the creators immediately, and then take their content and make it licensable across other sources. So that typically whenever a video becomes viral, the first place you might see it is Reddit, and then next you might see it on Mashable or BuzzFeed, and then next day you see it on Today Show and Ellen and all these other places. Well, what Jukin does is actually find that raw content and make sure that the creator gets paid, because if Ellen's going to broadcast this thing, Ellen's going to pay anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 for that piece. And so, Jukin allows for regular people to do that. VR, AR, huge. I mean, the hype is way ahead of where we are right now. When you think about the actual installed user base of playable devices, it's extremely tiny. I think Google Cardboard's out in the lead with about 5 million units shipped. They're all right. You just slip your phone into your cardboard and you look at stuff. What people don't understand about things like Oculus is a big device. You have to have a strong computer to process all that content. You have to have a tethered helmet that's attached to your computer. These are limitations right now. But even before VR goes mainstream, we've gone from just like a little look around type thing to what's called active VR, where people can run around and track all your motion in the VR situation. And this is before the thing's even gone mainstream. So we're so far developed right now that now we just have to find an audience. VR LA has it twice a year, 3 times. And going to VR LA feels like San Jose 1977. There's a lot of manic energy in the air. It's really exciting. There are lines for every booth that people check this stuff out. But a lot of the studios at these events won't be in business in 2 or 3 years. A lot of the studios, when they create content, have to create it on behalf of branded companies because it's subsidized by a Fortune 500 company in order to get things built, which is great. But there's limitations, you know. It's like when one company is commissioned by a movie studio to make the Terminator Genesis experience. I'm sure it looked great in VR, but how many people actually saw it in VR? It wasn't until it was flattened out and put on YouTube that like regular people could actually watch it because people don't have headsets yet. But that's not to discount the fact that this is going to be a very big thing. There's a lot of money in it. There's a lot of opportunity in it. It's just a matter of like finding where's your place in the ecosystem, and this is a proper passion for you. I mean, Steam Carnival, the guys down at 2-Bit Circus, they make VR experiences for companies like NBA and NFL and IndyCar racing, and they're going to continue doing that. So, Specular Theory was just the toast of Sundance for a video they made that allowed you to be harassed by the police, so that you can understand what people were going through in that process. It was a four-player event where you could play either the cop or you could play the victim or the accused, and really it was a really intense experience from what I've heard so far. I haven't watched it yet, but all the press was about that this past week. Ventana's got holograms, Daiquiri's got augmented reality. They're based in downtown. Social media, we're huge, one way or the other. You know, Flippergram raised a serious amount of money last year, and that's music-based slideshows that you can put on your other socials. Snapchat's the big one in the room. They're taking over Venice block by block. Evite's been around forever. Cyberdust is good for secure messaging. Whisper's still around. Tinder went public. Grindr just got bought out. eHarmony's been around forever, and 3 Day Rule is like still growing. Games, again, it's just massive. I mean, a lot of these companies have been around for some time, but Scopely's continuing to grow in the mobile space. Seriously has Best Fiends, which is one of the largest growing games on the planet. SGN got another round of funding from their international partners, and that's run by Krista Wolf, who used to run MySpace. Mob Crush is the Twitch for mobile games. So you use Twitch to watch desk-based games from your desktop, but Mob Crush allows you to watch mobile games from your mobile device. EA, Activision Blizzard have been around for years. Activision Blizzard just bought King Digital, which is home of Candy Crush, so that they can dig deeper into the mobile game space. And Riot Games just got bought out by their international partners, and their campus in Santa Monica is insane. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but it's like over on Olympic Boulevard near Centinela. It's right next to a Cadillac dealership. I mean, it looks kind of big from the outside, and that's cool, but then you actually walk through the building into the other buildings and to see the big space with a track and a basketball court and stuff. It's like amazing what's hidden behind those walls, but they're just continuing to grow, especially as esports continue to grow on top of all this. So not only do you have people playing the games, but then you have tons of people watching the games and betting on the games, and a lot of people are betting on a future for mass consumption of just video games, not scripted TV, yeah, maybe a few internet stars here and there, but really just kids watching video games. E-commerce, we've got it in spades. You know, Make Your Lab just came in from the UK. They make 3D dolls with Disney. Soylent is the, oh gosh, what's the best way to even describe Soylent? Just a liquid diet. Yeah, even Fandango and Ticketmaster have been around forever. Parachute and Seedling are upfront funded companies. Honest Company, of course, Jessica Alba's company raised, I think, $100 million last year. They're either going to go public or be bought by a larger company. Omaze is doing really good things in the in the conscious commerce space, where if you want to meet Arnold Schwarzenegger or be an extra in Star Wars or go see the final taping of The Daily Show, you buy tickets to be part of the lottery as opposed to being the highest bidder, as was with traditional experiential charitable things. Listen is taking the Tom's model, where it's like buy a pair of headphones, provide hearing to children in third world countries. The Books outsources their flowers from farms in third world countries and bring them in directly to the consumer, so they knock out the middleman in that process. Enru also builds a lot of accessories from third world countries. Laurel and Wolf is killing it in the personal design space, and Loot Crate, you just pay $10 a month and you get your secret box full of pop culture stuff. Fashion, personal care, it's always been a part of Los Angeles. LA has been a fashion hub for some time, and all these companies tap into it one way or the other. MeUndies is doing spectacularly well. Dollar Shave Club continues to grow into men's grooming products and beyond. Valley Chic and Black Tux focus on wedding apparel from both sexes. Fab Fit Fun, Reformation, How It Look, Just Fab, Nasty Gal, the whole crew. Personal services. LA has been a fantastic test market for a lot of personal services because we had the size of the market to tap into these things and see if they can work here. But we also have the geographic challenges to make some of these better than others. Obviously, curb stand helps people with their cashless valet system on their app as an app. Buddy Truck and Cluster address moving type situations. We have about 3 or 4 dog walking services, Dog Vacay, Zingy Pet. Heal is a really good app for doctors on demand. Zeal is massages on demand. Hop Skip Drive is the Uber for children, where you have a Hop Skip driver pick up your children from class and take them to ballet or football or whatever it is they do. Hardware, we've always been around for this stuff, especially with Belkin. UBeam is promising to allow wireless charging via their stuff. And it's really important for children these days to maintain access to tactile experiences. The more time we spend with children on their mobile devices, the less time they're solving problems with blocks and Lincoln Logs and all that. And so, companies like Two Bit Circus and LA Makerspace are really focusing on the tactile side of problem solving and engineering, so the kids have those skills as well. Aerospace defense, the cornerstone of this neighborhood. It's always been here. So, SpaceX is continuing the tradition, growing like crazy. Virgin Galactic is down in, I think, Long Beach, if I'm not mistaken. Surf Air is doing great with servicing private air travel to about a dozen markets within the state of California. Jet Propulsion Laboratories, of course, featured in The Martian. We've got the space. We're killing it, continue to grow, government funded. It's a business that's not going to go away, and it really helps this whole area. Transportation, Tesla's down the street, Hyperloop's building out their test track in I think Nevada. No, that's not Nevada. It's outside of town, but Hyperloop is taking over. They're taking over the arts district block by block. They started out in one small building and are getting built more and more buildings, building this thing out. Edmunds.com has been around for a while. TrueCar helps you buy a car at a decent price. Cargomatic had the best trial by fire last year with the San Pedro port strikes, because once those strikes were settled, you had all this inventory that had to be cleared off the boats, off the docks, and get them to their destination. And Cargomatic did a really good job of streamlining that so that any truck driver with available space on their truck could pick up any items and then take them along their route. So they had a heck of a test, and they did very well, so they're starting to expand into other markets. Honk is a AAA competitor. ParkMe just got acquired last year, and Pando is a marketplace for auto fanatics. Business SaaS, we've got software as a service across multiple areas, as you can see here. Don't really have enough time to go through every single one of these, but you get the idea. Whether it's something as a small business thing like 17 Hats and LegalZoom, to something much larger like Cornerstone On Demand. Security, we've always had it, continued to grow. Telesign's doing really well in the space. Burner is funded by Mark Cuban. Tiger Text is more of a focusing on the hospital industry, and Symantec, the granddaddy of them all. AdTech, data, it's all in our backyard, killing it. In fact, Rubicon, Stillhouse, and OpenX have all posted amazing quarterly earnings in the ad tech space the past couple quarters, and they only continue to grow, which is great. Factual, which is run by Gil Elbaz, who is the creator of what became Google's AdSense. They supply location information to companies like Apple and Facebook, and they're based in Century City. Co-working spaces, you're in one right now. We've got lots of them, and it's like Cross Campus is a space here. They're opening up a space in downtown on April 1st. They've got 2 locations right across the street from each other in Santa Monica. You've got everybody else here. I mean, out of respect for being at the host company, I'll just leave it at that.
Thanks, Scott.
And then second homes. I mean, that's the dirty little secret about this town, is like the people with the money in San Francisco have second homes in LA. Now they don't tell their workers that, but I mean, Jeff Bezos is a place here. Larry Ellison has multiple places here. Elon Musk, of course, has a place down here. Sean Parker. I mean, it's nuts. There is an allure to Los Angeles itself. And again, with that, this may be like kind of a jokey panel, but there's serious opportunity with the money that's coming into Los Angeles. It's crazy. You go around Brentwood and Santa Monica and other areas, and there are a class of people coming in that weren't always there, because people that buy those houses in those places were entertainment money or old money, but now you're getting young tech money buying that stuff. And and those aren't the kind of places where young buck engineers are going to be buying a place. It's like families who need a good place to settle down are buying houses in Brentwood, Pasadena, Long Beach, wherever they can find a good space for their children. And with that come all the associated services, whether it's in brick and mortar or real world, to serve these people. So, think about it. It's like one of the biggest opportunities is to be the welcome wagon in this town as more people migrate to Los Angeles. And whoever can offer concierge services to these people stand to make a lot of money. And yeah, that's it. LA's open for business. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much that was just like a wealth of information. I had no idea. And these are all businesses that are located within Los Angeles, either the city or you said LA Metro and also county as well, which seems like there's some distinctions there, which is really interesting, because I thought it was just LA City, LA County, apparently has to meet as LA Metro. Very good. Well, I'm sure there's like a lot of really cool stuff and comments that we can share with him and stories and that stuff. But right now we're going to open up for Q&A. So please, as our general format goes, if you have questions relative to his background in this presentation, please ask comments and stories offline. And John will flow around with the mic. If you have a question, raise your hand.
That was a very comprehensive presentation, but I noticed one slide you didn't have was on the healthcare and the digital health industry.
No, I appreciate that. Believe me, is this thing on? Yeah. And I know there's a lot of stuff I missed. There's so much more to be talked about. I don't know everything, but I try to put together everything I can. So if there's anything I did miss, please email me at Scott@LA Tech Digest, and I'll put it into future slides. And also, the Twitter account is LA Tech Digest or @Scott Perry. But yeah, as much data is in here, there's always going to be stuff I missed for a city this size. And yeah, I mean, healthcare is one glaring omission from this, as well as I got some of the port tech stuff in there, but there's a lot of things that still need to be added. There was questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mike, please, World Engineering Academy. I didn't hear what your background is. Was it journalism, technology, what's that?
Yeah, it's good to.
I actually have my own TV marketing company. I just wrapped up marketing for X-Files and Lucifer, Big Bang Theory, and Supergirl. And I've always had a natural curiosity about things. English major, English major, sociology minor, zero formal business training, but I've run my own marketing company for the past 15 years. And prior to doing LA Tech Digest, I had a site called New Music Tip Sheet. And on New Music Tip Sheet, I listed almost every single new release from almost every single label on a consistent basis. Because again, nobody was providing that service, not Billboard, not R&R, not Hits, not any of the trade magazines. And by doing so, that put me in the middle of everybody's business in the music industry, where there was radio, retail, press, booking agents, concert promoters, music providers, ad agencies, lawyers, managers, whomever had a vested interest in the music industry came to me to see what was going on. And so as such, I've built out the digest for the same means, but as we all know, publishers don't make money. I'll be straight up with that. I put a lot of time into the site, but content in and of itself is very cheap. And so when you're going head to head against a larger company like a Massive or TechCrunch, I don't know if LA Tech Digest is ever going to get that type of a scale, but I think it's important that these stories be told, whether I tell them myself or if I'm collecting everybody else's articles so that people can keep up with this stuff. And it's up to you what to do with that information and how it applies to your company. Whether you're dealing with engineering, law, real estate services, the site's a really good resource to see what's going on and what's happening without having to jump all over the place or build out your own Twitter feeds or RS feeds or anything like that.
Anybody else have a question?
I noticed that you had mentioned biotech with the lab launch that's recently started. Do you have any pulse on what's happening with the biotech industry in the LA area?
I do not. There's a lot of stuff I try to learn about, but biotech and health has been really, it's difficult for me. I should really dig in a lot more into those two. Yes, sir.
Where's the slide deck going to be available to us?
Oh, it's on the site right now. In fact, if you go to LA Tech Digest, there's a graphic very similar to that on the right-hand side, and it just clicks right over to SlideShare. So it's totally there anytime. So feel free to check it out, share it with your friends and family and peers and coworkers and everything. It's built this thing out originally in October. I did some revisions over the holiday season in December, and probably do another round of revisions sometime in the spring. But yeah, it's there at latechdigest.com.
Hey Scott, thanks a lot for putting this together. Can you give us a sense of readership and kind of what the consumption is of all this great content through the various channels that you're syndicating to?
Oh gosh, let's see. I've got about 1,000 people on the email list, 3,000 on the Twitter list, about 400 daily viewers on the site itself. It's just really, it's just continuing to grow. I haven't put any money.
We should all sign up. If you haven't signed up, we should all follow you.
Oh yeah, please. I mean, the best two things to do are to sign up for the email list, because that comes to your mailbox every Monday morning. And then if you want a lifetime feed of what's happening around town, the Twitter feed is best. I've had to measure how much time I put into the site versus what I get out of it. And believe me, as a publisher, you could spend all day writing articles and hoping you get that viral lift that grows, and you examine it, you pivot it, you do what you can. But at the end of the day, I've still got to make money. So my film and TV marketing company pays the bills, but I'm very passionate and excited about what's happening in this space, and I can't let this go. There's something there. How you make money doing it as a publisher, I have no idea. But these stories have to be told, so I keep doing it.
Well, we appreciate your passion.
Thank you.
Over here, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Hi there. I was wondering, are you getting direct releases from some of these companies? Or actually the question that I want to ask, are you finding that by scanning the social media feeds that you're able to get complete coverage of what's going on? Like, how complete do you think the coverage is coming through social media?
It's pretty great. It really is. I mean, thanks to companies like Twitter, where I can pull up everything from multiple sources, it's helped out a lot. And in fact, it actually eliminates a lot of the noise, because I do get direct feeds from a lot of people, but with every press release I receive in my email box is an obligation of my time. And it's really difficult for me to go, okay, I mean, this is a worthy story, this is great, but how much time do I put into that? And am I not getting any ad dollars out of it, which I'm not. So it's just all right. But a lot of times the social's enough to where, I might get a press release a morning before a big announcement comes up. And rather than writing the article myself or copying and pasting the press release, I just see that headline on Twitter and tweet it out. you know. So I mean, if I had a staff, if I had people like working on this stuff, I could take every single press release and turn it into something. But it's weird. There's a company called Tech Zulu who's been doing something similar for years. They're kind of, Efren, the founder, is going off in other areas. But he had a friend of ours make 90-second videos of what was going on in LA's tech space. Really, you know, fun to watch, great stuff, 0 views. The same woman who made these videos would post the stupidest thing on Vine and get 40,000 views in like 2 days. So it's really, things are tough enough for a publisher, but if you're publishing smart niche data, it gets to be that much more harder. I mean, you can be happy with the audience you have and monetize on top of that because you've got a really high quality clientele, but also key advertisers looking at your mass numbers and going, well, you're not big enough. I'm like, well, I'm reaching the right people, so, you know, who's to say who's wrong or right? It is what it is.